What makes someone evil? Is it their actions, their intentions, the consequences of what they do? Or is evil something more abstract? A label we place on those we fear, despise, or cannot understand. We grow up learning what's right and wrong. We're told stealing is bad, lying is bad, killing is bad. But we're also told that sometimes, in some cases, these things are justifiable. A soldier killing in war, a lie to protect someone's feelings, stealing to feed a starving child. And so the first crack in the wall appears. The definitions blur. If something can be both right and wrong depending on the situation, was it ever truly right or wrong to begin with? What makes someone evil might not be a matter of what they do, but how we perceive what they do. Because if we're honest, if we really step back and question everything, we'll see that there is no such thing as good and bad, not in any absolute sense. These ideas are not fixed laws of the universe. They don't exist like gravity or time. They're concepts, fluid, shifting, shaped by culture, history, power, belief, and perspective. There is no objective good. There is no objective evil. There is only what we as people decide to call good or evil, and that decision changes depending on who you ask. Look at history. Once upon a time, slavery was legal, normalized, even defended by religious and philosophical systems. Today, it's universally condemned. Were the people who supported it evil? By our standards, yes, but by theirs, they may have seen themselves as moral, even righteous. The same applies to every war, every empire, every revolution. Morality, then, is not a divine truth written in the stars. It is a collective agreement, a story we tell ourselves. Some turn to religion to define what's right and wrong. And yes, religion has been one of humanity's oldest tools for building moral frameworks. But religion itself is not objective. Different religions contradict one another. One man's holy law is another man's blasphemy. Even within a single religion, interpretations differ. The faithful disagree. So how can we claim that morality derived from religion is objective when religion itself is subjective? This is not an attack on faith. It's a recognition that even within spiritual traditions, morality is not fixed. It evolves. It adapts. What was once considered sinful might now be accepted. What was once considered virtuous might now be questioned. If religion can't provide a universal standard, what can? Some say society determines good and evil, but society is just a collection of individuals with shared norms, and even those norms vary wildly from place to place, time to time. In one country, it might be acceptable to speak freely against the government. In another, that same act is treason. In one culture, arranged marriage is a sacred tradition. In another, it's seen as oppressive. The same action, judged differently depending on where and when it happens. So how can we pretend that morality is objective? Even in personal relationships, what one person sees as a betrayal, another might see as a survival instinct. What one sees as kindness, another sees as weakness. Every moral judgment is filtered through the lens of human experience, through our upbringing, trauma, desires, fears, and values. And when we understand this, when we truly grasp that morality is a construct, we begin to realize something both liberating and terrifying. Evil isn't something that exists out there in the world like a monster hiding under the bed. Evil is a concept we project onto people, actions, and events when they violate our sense of what is acceptable. The moment we say that person is evil, we're not describing an objective truth. We're expressing a judgment, a belief, a reaction. And yet, there are people who do things so horrible, so cruel, that nearly everyone agrees. That is evil, genocide, torture, acts of unprovoked violence. Surely those are universally wrong. But even here we must be careful, because the people who commit these acts often don't see themselves as evil. They justify what they do. They believe in their cause. They think they're protecting something, avenging something, fighting for something greater. And if they don't feel remorse, if they see themselves as the heroes of their own story, then who's to say they're wrong? Of course, we recoil at this idea. We want to believe in justice, in accountability, in consequences. We want there to be evil so that we can fight it. But maybe, instead of thinking in terms of good and evil, we need a different framework. Maybe the question isn't, what is evil, but what causes harm? Harm can be measured. It can be seen, felt, understood. It's not perfect, but it's more grounded than abstract moral judgments. Instead of calling someone evil, we can say their actions cause suffering, and then we can ask why. Why did they do what they did? What led them there? What system shaped them? What pain fueled them? What belief blinded them? This is not about excusing harmful behavior. It's about understanding it. Because when we label someone as evil, we stop asking questions. We dehumanize. We create distance. We say, they are not like us. And in doing so, we close the door to empathy, growth, and real solutions. But when we recognize that the line between good and evil runs through every human heart, including our own, we are forced to confront our own capacity for cruelty. And that awareness humbles us. It reminds us that none of us are purely good. None of us are purely bad. We are all a mixture of light and shadow, compassion and selfishness, truth and delusion. Even the most evil people were once children. They were shaped, molded, scarred. And while this doesn't absolve them, it does complicate the story. And maybe that's the point. The universe doesn't deal in binaries. It operates in spectrums, gradients, paradoxes, and so do we. When we cling to black and white morality, we oversimplify the complexity of human life. We flatten people into caricatures, we ignore context, and we perpetuate cycles of blame and vengeance. But when we let go of the need for absolute good and evil, we open the door to something deeper: wisdom, compassion, responsibility. Not the kind of responsibility rooted in punishment, but the kind rooted in understanding our interconnectedness, realizing that we are all products of something larger than ourselves, and yet we are still capable of choosing, not choosing good or evil, but choosing awareness, choosing to reduce harm, choosing to grow, to reflect, to question the narratives we've inherited. So what makes someone evil? Maybe nothing does. Maybe evil is just a word we use when we've reached the limits of our understanding, when we can no longer explain, when we don't want to try. But what if we did try? What if we looked deeper? What if we asked not who is evil, but what systems create suffering? What beliefs justify cruelty? What traumas go unhealed? What needs go unmet? What if we replaced moral judgment with curiosity, condemnation with accountability, and fear with clarity? We might just begin to build a world not of saints and sinners, but of human beings, flawed, complex, redeemable, struggling to make sense of their existence. And maybe then we wouldn't need to define evil anymore. We would simply seek to understand. And in that understanding, we would begin to heal.